Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy post-Memorial Day weekend to all of you. Official start or unofficial start, I should say, of summer. It is Tuesday, May 30th, 2017 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Advancement Live. I'm your host, Kim Brown, and on today's episode, I can already tell it's going to be awesome because I was just chatting with my two guests before launching our broadcast. It's all about social media ambassador programs. So this is a hot topic right now. In higher ed and elsewhere. We know that we're compelling, we're creating this compelling, awesome content, but how do we make sure that what we've got is getting out there to the masses? And if we have a message that we really want to share, maybe it's for Giving Day or something else, do we have that team of alumni who we can rely on in order to share those messages? So it's anything and everything social media ambassador program this afternoon. Of course, as you know, Advancement Live is part of the Higher Ed Live Network. Our episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in our industry. And you can be part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. So I'd really love, because I know a lot of you who are watching today either have your own programs or you're thinking about starting them, you can be part of this conversation using the hashtag HigherEdLive. And I'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Twitter as we go through our conversation. All of our episodes are free. They are easy to access in our video archives. You'll find those at higheredlive.com, or you can take Higher Ed Live with you on the go. We also have podcasts available. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner. It is a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. And without further ado, I want to introduce the two ladies who I was just chatting with for the last few minutes while we got ready to start our episode today. We have Yanni Mason, who is from the University of Chicago. She works in digital communications, developing, executing, measuring social media campaigns. And she is the one who oversees the social media ambassador program that's taking place right now at University of Chicago. She created the training materials, she provided the training, and she has many, many degrees, a well-educated gal joining us this afternoon. Yanni has degrees from Fisk University, Vanderbilt University, and a PhD from Governor's State University. And our other guest this afternoon is Jordana Torres. She is Associate Director of Social Media at Northeastern University. And in her role, she manages social media and really works to drive the social media campaigns for the Office of Alumni Relations and also for advancement in general at Northeastern. And she is a Northeastern alumna herself, so she certainly knows what resonates with Northeastern alumni. How'd I do, ladies?
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we have many, many viewers today, which is exciting. No pressure. We'll get right to it. And I'll start, I guess, first with Jordana. Just kind of take me through, how long you've had your program in place. You told me a little story at the beginning. It's been an evolving, shall we say, program for Northeastern, right?
Yeah, to say the least. We are actually on our kind of phase 2, almost 3 iteration of social media ambassadors for our office. We had one platform that we used in the end of October and then of 2016, and then partway into the beginning of this year that we found just didn't really exactly fit kind of our needs, and then explored Social Toaster and also exploring a type of social media program that's completely off of the platform. So where I send ambassadors content just based on kind of where they live, the type of stuff they're interested in, what they studied at Northeastern and everything like that, just mostly through Outlook and maintaining spreadsheets. So that's a little bit more of a organic approach. And then we have Social Toaster, which we just started using in the beginning of this year. And we mostly signed on with them to help promote our first annual Giving Day, which was this past April. So we found that a lot of other universities had used Social Toaster in the past to promote their Giving Day. They had kind of experience in it. So we decided to go with that platform. So even though our Giving Day passed, and that was in the middle of April, we still are using the platform. We figure we already have, about 200 really engaged alumni in there. We're looking for an opportunity to really just keep them engaged post-Giving Day with just general content about the university, not necessarily giving anymore, but just anything that kind of might resonate with them, we load into the platform.
That's awesome. So you're relatively new to social media ambassador. I mean, not less than a year, right?
Yeah.
October 2016 on. Awesome. Yanni, let's loop you in. I know Social Toaster is also your platform that you're utilizing, solely Social Toaster. Kind of take me through what the experience has been at University of Chicago.
Definitely. So about 2 years ago, we utilized Social Toaster in order to promote our Giving Day. And so since then, U Chicago, we've utilized Social Toaster to not only promote Giving Day, but also other signature initiatives for the university, events, also our alumni magazine. So a variety of other things in addition to philanthropic giving, we've utilized the platform for. So we found it's been actually the response has been actually pretty good. The engagement is great. We have approximately 250 or so ambassadors currently. And so that includes alumni as well as U Chicago staff.
So it sounds like your goals for both of you were very similar when you launched the program. And that was tell everybody and their mother that we're having a Giving Day. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Especially that first year. We didn't really have that knowledge throughout the community that this is something that people look forward to. So we had to kind of build that initial hype and let people know that this is something that Northeastern was introducing, because we do plan to do this annually. So we want to try to get as big of a splash as possible.
Awesome. So were you giving them, and I know you've switched tools, I guess let's talk about your homegrown program right now, Jordana. You're giving them exactly the content you want them to post and then linking them over to a link. Are you telling them, hey, we have this amazing post right now on Facebook. Can you go on and share it with your networks, or both?
So mostly it is sending them content to share. So I just create kind of the shareable links on my own. I have... I designed it kind of based around the skim. So there's a really short kind of introduction that says, hey, this is what the top line of the story is. Here's a link to easily share on Facebook. Here's a link to easily share on Twitter. I craft copy for them in case they want to make it super easy and just press send, but encourage them to write their own copy. And this is content that's really specific to each person. So there might be something that each person is mailed. So if there's a huge announcement on campus, a huge gift or a new initiative or something like that, everyone will get it. But it's really tailored to where the person lives. So events in their area that they can post and invite their friends to kind of what they studied here. So certain things that happen within their school or their favorite professor. So it's really, really, really tailored to their experiences at Northeastern and since they've graduated.
That sounds like a full-time job.
Yep.
That is, I'm like, oh my gosh, you must have the world's most amazing spreadsheet to track all of that.
Lots of spreadsheets, that's for sure.
Wow. And so on the other side of the coin, Yanni, you are more of, with Social Toaster, as I understand it, it's one set of content that goes out to each platform. And so it's not, crafted for the specific ambassador. Is that kind of what's your experience been?
Yes, for the most part, it is exactly that, Kim. We upload content to the tool, and then it's disseminated, for the most part, the general interest content. So information that is applicable to the general audience is sent to everyone. And then also we can segment within the tool based on affinity and interest. Yes. And location to a lesser extent, but definitely based on interest, whether they're law school graduate or a graduate of a college, we can segment the list and the content that way as well. So
once you've put your content into the toaster, if you will, or sent your content out via email, what are you looking at metrics wise? And I'll start with you first, Yanni. Like, what is it that, like, boom, that was really successful, or ooh, crickets? What are you looking at afterwards?
Absolutely. So the cool thing about Social Toaster is that it sends an email notification to ambassadors about the availability of content. So what we really need to do is make sure that our subject line is really compelling, because if alumni don't open the actual email, they won't be able to disseminate the content, right? So I'm looking at not only the open rates, but also shares, and then also how many people it was sent to. We're looking at impressions as well. So all of those things. But initially, the biggest thing that I'm looking for is a really successful open rate, just to make sure that people are seeing the content so they can share it.
Awesome. And how about you, Jordana? When you send out not using the platform, when you're using your homegrown program, I assume you're using like a Google tracking link or something like that so that you can see who actually shared?
Yep, so they all get customized links, and then I also just have access to their profiles. So I just kind of check up on them every once in a while. Obviously, that's a little harder to do on Facebook, where they have kind of that stuff a little more on lock. But on Twitter and Instagram, I kind of do a lot of my own proactive checking to see their accounts. What did they share it? Did they use the same copy? Did they change the copy? What type of engagement are they getting? Then also who's engaging with them? You know, they got 2 retweets, but is it family? Is it other alumni? Is it someone else we can potentially engage? So it's a lot of kind of manual tracking.
Do you think, and I'll start with you, Jordana, do you think it's necessary for your ambassadors to have a huge social media following? Or do you think it's, you know, kind of, well, as long as it's getting out to somebody, whether it be a small network or a large network, like when you were signing them up to be ambassadors, was that one of the first things you looked at or not really?
Not at all. I don't think that the number necessarily correlates directly to quality. If someone only has, you know, 20 followers, but they're all Northeastern alumni that live in the same city as them, that they can actively engage with, and that they are, you know, a voice within their community that people listen to, then that's great. To me, that's way more important than someone that has 3,000 followers on Twitter, but they're sending out copy to what seems like a void sometimes when people aren't engaging with them. So we looked a lot more at the quality of their circles rather than the quantity.
Awesome. Yanni, would you say the same thing, or what was, because I know you talked about, or you created the training materials, and here I am trying to tweet while I talk, and it's just not successful at all, but I'm really trying. You created the materials for your social media ambassadors. Was having a large network part of the, you know, when you were trying to sign them on, was that important?
You know what? I would actually like to reiterate Jordana's point. Absolutely. We looked at more so the engagement for each ambassador as opposed to do they have a large social following? Do they, are they commenting? Are they active? And also, so those were the the qualities that we looked for. And really, I do want to say that it was definitely a team effort. So I'm on the digital communications team here at UChicago. So our alumni engagement and alumni relations team did a really great job of initially attracting and identifying alumni who would really be great ambassadors. And for the most part, those alumni were identified because they were volunteering for something else. And so really our users have kind of snowballed after that. So initially we had a pretty decent amount based on them volunteering for other things. And so as those ambassadors came on board, one of the cool things about Social Toaster is that the more ambassadors are active in doing things, the more points they get. So, and they can redeem those points for swag. So we've had also, you know, initially the selection from our alumni engagement team, and then also ambassadors have self-selected into the program after, you know, our ambassadors can send out recruitment links as well.
And I imagine, and this goes for both of you as well, you must be getting a lot of updated contact info for these alumni who sign up, right? Because then they're raising their hand to help you out. And so I know through the back end of the platform, you get all those email addresses, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's always
yes. Email addresses.
When people get a new job or they move, usually the first thought isn't, oh my God, I need to tell my alma mater. So luckily we are able to get a lot of that information through here. We also put in kind of in our old platform an activity that had really great engagement. That was just a form people could fill out to let us know if they recently moved or if they planned on relocating. So that way we were able to have another touch point. So I was able to email them and say, hey, I saw you just moved to San Francisco. Here is our Facebook page for the community. Here's an upcoming event. Here are other opportunities. So we've taken that information that we get from the ambassador programs and all of the contact information and information about where they live and exported that to be able to tell them about other opportunities that our office offers outside of social media ambassadors.
Awesome. Yanni, anything on that point about the contact info, or just being able to really rely on these alumni, maybe even outside of the platform that you're using?
Absolutely. So once alumni initially engage with us via Social Toaster, I don't have the data right now to back me up on this, but they're generally more inclined to participate in other ways with the university digitally. So we have a suite of websites that are domestic, international, as well as affinity-based. And so we have an entire alumni web community. So as a result of Social Toaster, I do believe that some of our alumni are participating with us digitally in other ways as well.
Awesome. So in terms of the content that you're sharing, whether it be through your homegrown program or through the platform that you're utilizing, what do you find, and Jordana, I'll start with you, and yours is so, I mean, for anyone who's just tuning in, our numbers keep going up, which is awesome. Thank you, ladies. This is great. So Jordana's is, for folks who are just tuning in, she's personalizing emails to her ambassadors based on what she believes will be interesting to them, what their major is, where they live, things like that. So what's the content that you find that your alumni are most likely to share?
Our biggest ones are pride and nostalgia. Those are really where our buckets lie. So pride, either a really large endowment that we received, or if it's some other kind of local rallying cry, some recognition, some ranking or something like that. And then nostalgia. There's obviously, campuses are changing by the day. So I think a lot of alumni, sometimes they feel like they might have been left behind a little bit. So to be able to kind of stoke that air of, we're still the same university you knew type of thing. We're just a little fancier now. So that nostalgia content, that's either old photos of campus, like Throwback Thursday type photos, or asking them to share photos like that, share photos of your graduation day or something like that, especially around commencement time. Those definitely get a lot of engagement.
Yanni, would you agree, or have you found others that do? Well, I know you said you use it for the magazine, I think, and other types of content.
Yes, we do. I would definitely agree that pride and nostalgia are definitely two areas that alumni tend to share frequently. I would also add to that research. We're a top tier research institution, so if we have breaking research as well. Also, our alumni awards, some of that content, really personal recognition where we're recognizing the awesome community of alumni that we have. That content has performed really well also.
One of the criticisms that I've heard, and maybe both of you can weigh in on it, about some of these platforms, is that when the content is spit out, it looks too cookie cutter, and that millennials who, well, we're generalizing here, but your typical social media user, they don't do cookie cutter. Like, it has to be unique, and it has to be theirs, and it has to feel like them. So have you heard that kind of pushback from any of your ambassadors? Yanni, go first.
Sure. So definitely, I would say one of the things that we've done, and I think we've done it well, is that we utilize the voice and the tone that we utilize for the platform. It's much more conversational. It's more informal. It's still institutional, but definitely much more formal, more on par with the way millennials speak or think, because we want, of course, we're all sharing compelling content, right? But we have to have it. We have to create the copy in a way that makes people want to share it. So we're, again, much more informal and sharing content that we think would resonate really with our audience. So definitely the stuffy cookie cutter approach is not going to work. And we haven't utilized it for this platform.
And what have you found, Jordana?
So one workaround I have by having a homegrown program is that I don't need to add hashtag ad or hashtag entry to my content. And I get why, the major social media platforms are having people do that because, social media ambassadors are so prevalent now, and, you don't want someone plugging a watch and having people not realize that they're being plugged a watch type of thing. I get it, but it also does make the content seem a little less authentic in my mind as a millennial. If I see a bunch of my friends that are tweeting something that's, the same copy with hashtag entry tucked in there somewhere, it definitely, so I try to avoid that when possible. And luckily I can kind of get away with that when it comes to the homegrown approach.
Awesome. We have a comment from my friend Kristen at Union. Hi, Kristen. Kristen agrees that when it comes to alumni and the content that resonates with them, that it really is pride and nostalgia. So I think for any school that's thinking about what's the kind of content that we'd like to share with our alums, those two keywords or buzzwords seem to be what work well. And I know from running our accounts for Syracuse that pride and nostalgia. We shared a photo on Instagram today of two alumni who met here, who sat on our kissing bench, and now they're proud of their two twin girls, and it's just exploding on Instagram, and they're so cute. So that's the kind of content that really does nicely. Jesse has a question, and I want to remind everyone who's watching that if you do have a program or if you have a specific question for Jordana or for Yanni, just to use the hashtag HigherEdLive. That's why I am trying to read Twitter while we're talking. So Jesse asks, are either one of you using the platform Evertrue at your schools? Are you Evertrue clients?
We are.
Okay, does that integrate at all or not at all? Okay.
At this point, we really just use it as more of a more for location. So we don't have all the features in Evertrue activated. So people can sign in with their LinkedIn account or sync their LinkedIn account to Evertrue, and it'll provide kind of their contact information and their location information. So at this point, we use it more as a resource for alumni. Let's say they're in China and they want to be able to find other alumni in the area. Then they'll use the app for that. So we do use a very limited number of the resources that the app provides.
Got it. We just got a tweet from Cara Sassone, who is an alumna of Northeastern University and Syracuse University. So she's super jazzed to see both of us on an episode together, Jordana. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love the power of our little social media community. So have you found, and I know you definitely, Jordana, with the first platform you were using, found a lot of challenges. It was wicked expensive and very little ROI. Any challenges that you find now, either with what you're doing homegrown wise or with the platform that you're currently utilizing, which is Social Toaster?
I think finding a steady stream of content.
Okay.
So sometimes we have, a few big announcements that come in a row. There's a few rankings that are announced the same time of the year, for example. And that's not necessarily spread out in a beautiful way for me to email everyone once a month. So it's finding the right cadence of content and having it be of enough of a quality where it doesn't seem like I am just reaching out to the social media ambassadors just to spam them of something or just have a touch point. I want to make sure that it's something that they would actually be interested in. So definitely finding something that fits that correct cadence and the correct quality that we're looking for.
And how about you, Yanni? Any challenges that you've run into in terms of use of the platform or looking at the back end metrics or anything along those lines?
Sure, I would say, and this is really not so much specific to the platform, but just in general, just making sure there's a balance. So of course, we want to sustain our institutions. We, of course, need people to give, but also balancing messages about giving with messages about pride and about nostalgia and just engaging alumni in a way that also feels authentic. So just finding the balance, I think, is really at times a challenge.
I imagine the ambassadors wouldn't be apt to only share messaging about supporting our institution and giving, and they worry about how they're perceived by their friends.
Exactly.
And those kind of messages. I think that's a good point about finding the balance. I want to raise a point from Kristen at Union, who is a heavy Evertrue user, and I look to Kristen for advice as we look to utilize that platform. Really going into Evertrue and seeing who your most engaged alumni are. Who's interacting with you most on social media, and then reaching out, because that's what Evertrue does. One of the many perks of that is to see, who's liking your content on Facebook, who's engaging, and those are key people to reach out to in order to have them sign on as social media ambassadors. For both of you, do you see, and Jordana, I'll have you answer first, do you see, the need to recruit more, or do you feel like we're at about 200, I'm good, like we're getting our stuff out there, / my spreadsheets can't handle any more people. What are your thoughts about growing your program?
I think we found that with our old program, our first platform, we actually had about 1,600 people in. We did a massive campaign, a paid social media campaign. We were tabling at events. We were kind of going really big with recruiting here.
Okay.
And we found that people didn't engage. We had 1,600 people, but such a small amount of them actually came back into the platform regularly and shared content regularly and actually were able to tap into their networks. So I think this similarly goes back to the other point of quality over quantity. So I think at this point we have a good amount of people in the platform. We are seeing decent engagement results. So I would want to, if we were to grow, a little more methodically and think about more targeted outreach to have people come in rather than casting a really wide net and having people in there that aren't actually engaging with the content.
Yanni, do you feel similarly about U Chicago?
Absolutely. I would like to see more of our units across the university represented, so that there's more representation across, all disciplines, all interests, so that when we share not only general content, but unit-specific content to specific schools, that it's shared to a wider audience. So definitely getting more participation for affinity-based groups in specific units would be ideal. Nice.
So you touched on this a little bit, Yanni, and that is the prizes, when you get your point.
The swag.
Everybody does it for the swag, right? It's like a $1 item, but it's so cool. So this is obviously something that the Social Toaster platform is known for. Is that the what's in it for me for alumni? Like what's the incentive? Is it really that dollar magnet that they're going to get, or what have you found has kept them, opening those emails and continuing to share your content?
That's a great question. So I would definitely say, although they enjoy the socks and the dollar magnets and, hoodies and things like that, it's definitely being able to feel like they're a part of an exclusive club, if you will, where they are the first to know information and that they can share with their peers. We also did a survey maybe about a year and a half ago. And so we asked what incentivizes you to share. And so definitely the prizes were one, but again, sharing content that is relevant to them and to their network, and that would be helpful to the people that they know.
Awesome. Jordana, do you do any incentivizing with your homegrown program, or is that something that you leave for the stuff you use through Social Toaster?
So I don't do a direct one-for-one, as in, share this and you get a t-shirt, or share this and you get an entry into something. I am more about the surprise swag. So as long as people kind of stay engaged, I'll just kind of send stuff out every once in a while, send them a tumbler, send them a t-shirt or something like that, just to thank them for their engagement as we go, rather than tying a direct activity to a direct reward.
Awesome. Any swag that does particularly well? The things that of socks. We've never given out socks, but hey, why not? Orange socks. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we actually did socks with Giving Day, and they performed so well. People were posting photos of them. Pennants perform really well. I think that people really enjoy the opportunity to kind of showcase their alma mater, whether it be in their cubicle or their office or their home, wherever they decide to put it. Koozies. People really love koozies. Those are always the first thing to go off the gift table. So a lot of these little things that we kind of have floating around anyway, but can kind of help people showcase their pride in their alma mater.
Awesome. I'm totally quoting you with that right now. What incentives perform well? Socks, koozies, and pennants. Jordana Torres, everybody. That's awesome. Finish up that tweet one. So as you think about, one of the things that I struggle with in social is the Facebook algorithm. And I'm not the only one, I'm sure, who has that struggle. So as you think about using a program where you're asking your alumni to post to their own networks, their own content, and not to share the content that you've already put out. Like we know that Facebook, if they see 100 people all of a sudden sharing that picture of the two twin girls that I shared today, that Facebook is going to like that and show it to more people. So did you struggle with that at all? Do you ever, share those like wildly viral posts to make them go more viral? How does that factor into your program? Jordana, I'll have you answer first.
So I will usually ask people to share something on our page if it's something that's kind of more of an office priority or an institutional priority. If it's the other stuff that's just kind of alumni stories or updates from different departments or something like that, I'll usually leave that up to them because it seems a little more kind of authentic that way. But if it's something that it would benefit from it being the institutional voice rather than it being an individual voice, then I'll direct them to actually sharing something from our accounts.
Got it. I think that's a good rule of thumb. Yanni, do you have any thoughts on that front, the whole sharing of our content, making it go widespread versus them sharing, yes, it's our content, but it's on their own accounts?
Absolutely. So our School of Public Policy, I believe they utilize Thunderclap to promote some big initiatives over there. So in that way, that tool was really helpful to simultaneously, generate buzz about the initiatives that you wanted to. So as far as alumni relations, we haven't utilized it yet to achieve that goal.
So as you think back to, Jordana, yours was, around October of last year, and Yanni, you've been utilizing this for longer. As you think back to offering advice to schools that are jumping into this game, who have bosses who say, we need to have a social media ambassador program, what would be your key pieces of advice to those schools? And Yanni, I'll have you answer first on that one.
Sure. I would definitely say to get people who are really excited and really, really enthusiastic about the institution, about their affiliation with the institution, and making sure that they are tech savvy enough to actually utilize the tools that we're promoting. And so also I would say training is really important. So not only training for the ambassadors, giving them some guidelines, but also training for staff is important as well, so that all of your, as far as your internal buy-in is concerned, that you have people internally who are actually utilizing the tool to promote messaging and support institutional goals. So I would definitely say training, internal and for ambassadors, is important.
Can you talk a little bit about what that training looked like? I did want to touch on that in another question, but since we're on the topic, we'll stick with training. Was that, you got up on a YouTube event and trained them over video? Did you do manuals? What did that training look like specifically for the ambassadors themselves?
Sure. So I used Canva, which is a free tool that I think is great, by the way.
It's like the best thing ever.
It is. Canva is awesome.
Non-designers, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I utilized Canva to create the manual. But like I said, it's definitely here. It's definitely a team effort. Our digital communications team, our alumni engagement team. So our alumni engagement team identified the volunteers that needed training. And so I did it over WebEx, which is far less savvy as some of the other tools that you've mentioned. But I did it over WebEx, and really I gave them the background on the program and why we needed their help and what we were looking for. So it wasn't so much a technical, it was a technical training on the actual tool itself, but more so just really emphasizing the importance of what we were asking them to do in this volunteer capacity.
Awesome. Jordana, as you think back to last year, probably it would have been around this time, May, June, July of 2016, when you were thinking about launching and you were pitching your higher ups to start the new platform, and then you said, just kidding, we're going to go to a different platform. What would you say to folks who are in a similar boat as you were a year ago?
I would say that you need to be targeted and purposeful of your recruitment. Just because you have 600 ambassadors in there, or 600, 1,600, 200, make sure you have the quality over the quantity. Don't just cast a net hoping to get a lot of people there. Just get really absorbed in, the potential. If people aren't actually reaching out to their friends and they aren't sharing your content, then the potential number you can reach really doesn't matter. I would say also make sure you have content. I think everyone has this, bright idea that it would be great if we had social ambassadors to share this one piece of content. That's great. That's one piece of content. How are you going to keep these people engaged the other 364 days of the year? So make sure you really have the resources to sustain a program like that, whether it be actual manpower or actual just news coming out of your institution. And then I also think that people need to think critically about their influencers and their ambassadors and what they're actually influential in. Just because someone is influential within their circle when it comes to cars doesn't mean that they're going to be influential when it comes to our institution. So kind of going back to make sure you're purposeful with who you're actually recruiting into your platform.
And how frequently are you, Jordana, sending your emails out to your ambassadors? Is it something that you only send when you know there's great content, or have you tried to get onto a weekly? And you may mention this at the beginning, and I apologize because I was probably reading Twitter, but how frequently do those emails go out?
So when I recruited them, I billed it as regular communications. I didn't want to tie myself to a particular cadence. At this point, I'd say it's about monthly on average. But if there are kind of opportunities to reach out more frequently, or there is content that's a little more timely that I can't really wait a couple of weeks to send out to them, I'll send out a little more frequently than that.
Yanni, are you on a similar monthly schedule, or do you try and go weekly?
Oh, definitely not weekly, but I would say definitely every month we have content that we can disseminate for our, some of our signature initiatives, like our alumni weekend is this upcoming weekend. So for for alumni weekend and alumni awards or just signature initiatives, the content might be posted much more frequently. But I would say definitely at least once a month there's several pieces of content posted in the tool.
Has there ever been a concern, and this is a concern I've heard here, that you have an alum who is your social media ambassador, and they're sharing the content that you've either provided through your homegrown program or through the platform that you're utilizing, and some of their other content on their platform or on their social channel isn't PC, isn't aligned with institutional goals, whatever one might say. Has that ever been an issue for either one of you?
It's not an issue that I've really had to push up against. So I've definitely noticed before that, someone has previously shared something that isn't really in line with our institutional voice or whatever. And then, they send something that I sent them about, our athletics team winning some competition. I think that that's just the truth of social media, that you can't really have that much control over what people are sharing. And I think that if we try to sterilize kind of their accounts and their tone, then that just takes away the authenticity. I think that if someone was really sharing something that was really questionable in any way, we probably wouldn't even get to the point of having them engaged, and they probably wouldn't, have such an interest engaged with the institution. So luckily we haven't really had to push up against, cutting someone off from content, for example.
Good. Yanni, anything you've seen on that front?
Luckily, to my knowledge, we haven't really experienced that yet. But as you know, the University of Chicago is well known for our stance on free speech. So of course, were that were to happen, we probably definitely not censor what our alumni are posting. So yeah, luckily we haven't had to, we haven't experienced that yet, where that's been an issue.
Have you found good buy-in from your universities? Are somewhat similar to Syracuse, especially Northeastern. Have you found buy-in from your schools and colleges, from the different units, that they want to provide content, that they want to be in the toaster this week or want to be part of the email this month? Jordana, has it been tough to get people on board?
I'd say it's very varied. We have 9 colleges within Northeastern, and I think this also goes back to how big their own communications teams are. So some of our colleges are super small. They have, one person that does all of their communications. They do their marketing, their copywriting, their social media, kind of everything. And then we have our other colleges that have really large teams. So they just have more resources to devote to kind of partnering with us on that. So I think it definitely varies based on the individual resources of the colleges.
Yanni, what have you found on that front? I know you mentioned one of your schools is using Thunderclap, using a different platform. Have you found that there's been good buy-in?
I would also say that it varies. So I think also it's their knowledge factor, where some of our colleges and units are familiar with the tool and with the work that we've done here at Alumni Relations, and others not so much. So for example, our laboratory schools, which is our pre-K through 12th grade school, we promoted a lot of content for them through Social Toaster. Also for Harris, our School of Public Policy, we promoted messaging for them for Giving Day, as well as other units as well. So some units have utilized Social Toaster primarily for Giving Day, and then others, like Lab School, utilize it for not only Giving Day, but for other initiatives. So it just depends.
Awesome. Well, before I wrap up I can't even believe it's almost 1:45. That's crazy. Chatting away. Before I wrap up our episode, I just want to remind folks who are watching that you can ask questions or add in, final thoughts on your own social media ambassador programs, tools that you found helpful. Just utilize the hashtag HigherEdLive. There's been some good points made in there this afternoon that I brought up throughout our episode. And so if there's anything that you think would add to our conversation, please don't hesitate to tweet that, because we all learn from each other. Just in our conversation today, just how much we've learned, and knowing that, we all are our own institutions with our own alumni base, and we can learn from each other about what works. Do either of you think that your social media programs would be successful if you did not have incentives such as socks and koozies and magnets and pennants? Do you think that do you think that the insider circle is enough to incentivize alumni to take part in these programs? Jordana?
No. I think that we have a small cohort of alumni that would truly still engage with us if that was taken off the table. But I think that in order to get the results and the reach that we hope to get through the content we share, then we kind of do need to butter them up a little bit with some swag.
How much would you say you budgeted a year? And maybe you don't have the number off the top of your head. And I know I didn't give you this question ahead of time, so don't throw rocks at me for asking it. But in terms of how much to set aside for the swag that you give out, even if it was just a ballpark for what you're spending on swag and postage to send to your ambassadors.
So I have never made a purchase for the point of it being an incentive.
Got it.
So we have 2 or 3 supply closets that are just kind of packed with swag. So stuff that we purchased for previous events. So some evergreen kind of stuff like stickers that we just bring to different things we do. So more so it's me poaching those. So I get like I know my coworker's definitely watching right now. I'm like, oh, that's where my thermoses went. So it's more so me kind of taking a mental note. Okay, I need 10 gifts to send out, or I need 5, or I need 50, and then looking at the supplies we have, what can we actually part with that wouldn't be too hard to deal with, and then using that as an incentive.
Awesome. Yanni, what do you think? Could we sustain these programs without the fun swag?
I do think it would be difficult to do without the swag. So I think really the swag at times is really more like a thank you, like more of an appreciation token at times versus an incentive for actually doing it. But it would be very difficult to continue the programs without the swag. And again, like I said, not even necessarily just for incentivizing, but just, we notice you, thank you for what you've done, because we give prizes for people who share content. We give for people who recruit. So there's various levels that you can select from within the tool, whether that's, again, sharing content or recruiting or things like that. So definitely to show appreciation, I think at a minimum, it's still needed.
Would you say that your ambassadors, Yanni, skew younger, or are they really just a range of different ages?
There are a range of ages, but I would definitely say it skews younger. So lots of millennials. I think the average age of our sharing might be 36.
Okay.
So that's millennials. I think that's what Gen Y or whatever that is. So yeah, definitely it skews younger.
Jordana, would you say the same?
We definitely have a wide range in there. We have, alums that graduated decades ago that still want to engage with us, but I'd say most of the engagement comes from the younger generation that are even, more comfortable with this concept. It's not as foreign to them to see people engaging with different brands this way.
And as far as the actual sharing, do you find, Jordana, that the content that you prepare for Facebook does better than Twitter, or does it really, do you see more sharing on one platform versus the other, or does it really vary?
I think that people are a lot more locked down and controlling of their Facebook streams and the type of person they want to present themselves as on Facebook. So they might be a little more likely to share something that's obviously a little more for the fulfillment of the university rather than them on Twitter rather than on Facebook, or to engage in some type of challenge, like share a photo for X. They're a little more likely to do that on Twitter, I think, where there's kind of this expectation that you have a balance of content there to maintain kind of your social persona, where Facebook is a lot more personal, and they don't want to be seen as just a microphone for the university. There's definitely different types of content.
Yanni, have you seen anything doing particularly well on either platform, or one platform utilize more than, I imagine on the back end you can see how many people have shared, but not necessarily to which, or you can see to which platform as well.
We can see specifically because the platform we utilize syncs with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, some other social media platforms as well. So for the most part, we have more engagement on Twitter than Facebook. But also one of the things that we do is we tailor the copy for each post slightly different, keeping in mind the preferences of everybody who uses each platform. So the post for Facebook might be slightly different than the copy post for Twitter.
Okay. Awesome. And then I imagine LinkedIn, it's such
LinkedIn strictly professional.
Yeah, it's so different. It's just so interesting how each channel has its own identity. And don't even get us started on Snapchat, because none of these programs work in Snapchat. It just gives me the shakes when I think about Snapchat and how we should be there and what to do on that platform. But anyway, well, our Twitter audience has all of a sudden gone quiet on us, so I don't have any more questions coming in from them. But what a robust conversation, and really great to have both of you with me this afternoon. Anything that you think I missed? Anything that you want to add, some final words on socks, anything?
I think that Yanni brought up a really important point earlier, that the swag isn't necessarily just to trick them into participating in a way. It's more about thanking them for their engagement, because we recognize, that they have other priorities in their life. Their time is valuable. So definitely make sure that you're not just spamming this audience, that you're sending them content that would resonate with them, that serves kind of purposes for both you and for them, so that it seems authentic, that it's coming from them. And yeah, don't underestimate kind of how powerful something really simple that you have sitting in your supply closet can be to really showing someone that you value their time.
And I could see our friends at Social Toaster, we've mentioned them quite a bit today, really listening to what you said, Jordana, about, and maybe being able to develop something within their platform so that it can be more custom to what you're doing, so that you can choose all the broadcasting majors who were part of first-year players. I'm using very Syracuse terms right now, and just send the content to them. It would make your spreadsheets go bye-bye. It would make your life probably a lot easier. And it seems like something, as we look to the future of alumni engagement and engaging based on affinity and not necessarily based on where you live or how old you are, that would be a really good addition. Do you agree with that?
targeting as much as possible to make sure that this content really resonates, that you're not just casting out a wide net, because then they're going to start closing you off. They're not going to open your emails anymore if they think that you're being a little too self-fulfilling with the content.
Yanni, any subject lines that have done particularly well for you that you were like, use it? Just might not even apply to you, Syracuse, but use it. It was great. Anything that comes to mind? Probably short.
Two, I would say one for our alumni awards was congratulations are in order. So that performed well. It's really compelling, like who are we congratulating? So people clicked it. The other was the more the merrier, and that was for Giving Day. So that performed really well also.
Congratulations. All right, I'm writing those down so I can tweet our episode and use them maybe in the future.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies. Well, what a great chat. Thank you both so much. I want to check one more little check of Twitter. Nope, we're silent on Twitter. So with that, we will wrap up today's episode. Say thank you again to M. Stoner for making this possible. Thank you to Jordana and to Yanni for joining me this afternoon, and wishing all of you a wonderful summer. Good luck with your alumni weekends and reunion weekends and all that jazz. I know people think summers die down, but for many of us in alumni engagement, they ramp up as we plan homecoming and reunion and all that jazz. So thanks again to you both, and have an awesome afternoon.
Yeah,
thank you.